The movie begins with a young man named Gao, lying unconscious in a wrecked car at the bottom of a cliff. Xing, a native village girl, stares at the car from a distance. A few moments later, Gao wakes up and leaves the car, stumbling across a stony terrain. He barely walks a few meters away from the crash site before Xing approaches and knocks him out with a stone. The scene shifts to 8 hours before the ghastly car accident. Gao, who is a gem hunter, is joined by Xiana, his dealer, and Qin, his technician, as the trio stands on a sidewalk. There, Gao spots two sketchy men in a car, closely watching him, from down the street, and immediately realizes that they're hired thugs. Gao bids Xiana and Qin goodnight before entering his car and driving off. As he anticipated, the men also start up their engine and closely tail him. Gao hits the gas and speeds off, prompting a fierce car chase, which causes the accident. Back in the present, Gao wakes up and finds himself in a primitive but strange village. Here, women are the dominant gender as they hunt and provide for their families. While the men do chores and take care of the kids, fathers are the homekeepers and cook the meals. While the mothers serve as guards and soldiers, protecting their husbands, the village is a secluded area completely cut off from the outside world, as they have no technology or knowledge of any scientific products. Gao also learns that Xiana is the queen of the tribe and is astonished to discover this. Initially, Gao disbelieves her and assumes that the villagers are just nerdy cosplayers with great costumes and a perfect setup. He curses at Xiana and the rest of the women, which annoys the beautiful tribe leader. Xiana is pissed at his attitude and keeps Gao in a wooden cage as punishment. Later, Gao realizes that they are indeed real people and decides to return to the city as soon as possible. However, Yanhe, the tribe's astrologer, tells Gao that he can't leave the village without Xiana's permission. After a few hours, Gao begs Xiana to release him from the cage and take him to his car. Ina, though skeptical, decides to have mercy on him and obliges. The two head back to the crash site, as Gao searches his car for useful supplies. Gao finds a metal bat in the trunk and playfully swings it around. Mistakenly, he hits Xiana on the head, causing her to pass out on the floor. Gao seizes the golden opportunity to escape, and wears a backpack as he runs into the nearby woods. A few minutes later, the car's fuel tank starts leaking, and soon, Xiana is surrounded by a ring of blazing flames. The villagers spot the fire and quickly rush to the scene as they pour buckets of water to extinguish the flame. Gao hears the villagers screaming from the woods and feels guilty for leaving Xiana behind. He rushes to the scene and pours a bucket of water on himself before entering the fiery ring and carrying Xiana out of it. Right as they leave the site, the car explodes, and the duo lands in a nearby pond, much to the villagers' relief. In the following scene, Gao is back in the village and finds his phone in his backpack. He plays a song on it, which attracts Xiana as she rushes into the room. Xiana fears the strange device and tries to smash it, but Gao assures her that it is harmless. He offers her his earphones, and the duo listens to the music together as Xiana falls asleep moments later. Gao lays a sleeping Xiana in bed, after which he frantically searches the room, hoping to find a map that can lead him back to the city. In the room, Gao ecstatically finds a sapphire gemstone and decides to ask Xiana about it when she wakes up. The next morning, Xiana tells him that the sapphire was a gift from her dead mother. A greedy Gao offers her several items, such as a bowl of instant noodles, a novel, and even his phone, in exchange for the stone. However, Xiana refuses to part with the gem, explaining that it is her most prized possession. Gao is disappointed, but resolves to steal the gem instead. Later that day, Xiana asks Gao to meet her in an open field at night, so they can watch the stars together. Gao accepts the offer as Xiana sheepishly smiles and leaves his shed. That night, the duo lay on the grass and stare at the starry sky. Suddenly, Xiana pounces on Gao and tries to remove his clothes, much to his surprise. He throws her off, and the two get into a heated argument. Gao is shocked to discover that in the village, who watch the stars means to have sex. Hence, why Xiana pounced on him. Suddenly, Gao sprints to the village to escape, with Xiana in a hot pursuit. Xiana is angry at Gao and imprisons him when they return to the village. Gao explains to Xiana that he didn't know the phrase's hidden meaning, and took it at face value. He also states that where he comes from, people express their feelings romantically, like confessing their love when it snows. Xiana finally understands Gao, but still has him spend the night in the cell while she returns to her shed. Back in the city, Xiana earnestly search for Gao to no avail. They check the road where his car swerved off the cliff, but are disappointed to find nothing. Xiana uses a drone to search the area, but a magnetic field disrupts the aircraft and causes Xiana to go blank. When the duo return home, they meet Lion, a businesswoman with whom Gao signed a contract. The contract mandates Gao to meet with Lion every 15 days, and failure to do so attracts a 60 million fine. So far, it has been 13 days since his disappearance, so Lion has come to find him. Xiana lies that Gao took a trip to the mountains and will be back soon. Lion is unconvinced, but gives the duo 48 hours to find Gao before she takes action. Back in the village, Zaina takes Gao to the woods. Zaina confesses her love for him and asks him to marry her as she dumps a bucket of chicken blood on him. Apparently, Zaina misheard him last night and thought he said blood instead of snow, as both words sound similar in Chinese. Gao is pissed at her and walks away in frustration, but is caught in a trap shortly after. Gao desperately begs Zaina to free him from the trap. However, Zaina asks him to accept her wedding proposal before she does this, and a defeated Gao ultimately agrees. On their way back, Gao finds one of the blades of Zaina's drone lying in the bushes. Seeing this, he registers that his friends are looking for him and decides to escape from the village as soon as possible. That night, Gao and Zaina converse and decide to get married the next day. Gao asks Zaina about the village terrain and learns that there's a secret cave in the forest. He figures that the cave is an exit from the village and plots to use it to escape. Gao also learns that the village has a wine reserve and begs Zaina to take him to it. She obliges, and the duo heads to the village central pantry. Without her knowledge, Gao drops some sleeping pills into the wine barrel, as a ploy to knock out all the villagers during their wedding. Later, the couple returns to Gao's room, and Zaina offers him her sapphire stone as an early wedding gift. Gao feels guilty, but collects the gem anyway. The following night, the couple has their wedding ceremony, and observes the tribe's unique rites as Zaina goes down on one knee and confesses her love for Gao. Gao accepts her to be his wife, after which, the villagers sing and play a love song as the newlyweds dance in unison. To end the feast, Gao proposes a toast and urges the villagers to drink their respective bowls of wine. The unsuspecting natives swallow the drug to drink, but Gao tosses his away when no one is watching. A few hours later, the villagers all fall asleep. While Gao packs a bag and leaves the village, he goes through the woods and eventually reaches the cave, which connects to the outside world. Determined, Gao enters the dark cave and begins his journey to the city. The next morning, he finally reaches the end of the cave and races to the top of a mountain, smiling as he sees a nearby road. Back at Gao's house, Liana arrives with her men as the 48-hour deadline is almost over. Liana asks Zaina and Qin about Gao's whereabouts, but the duo reveals that they have no idea where he is. Hearing this, Liana offers Zaina a contract that would transfer ownership of the house to her. Zaina refuses to sign the paperwork, but Liana gives her no choice. The businesswoman signals her men to hold the duo hostage, as Zaina is forced to sign the paper with a thumbprint. Fortunately, Gao barges through the front door right in time to stop them. Qin takes advantage of the distraction and swallows the signed contract while Gao speaks to Liana. Ultimately, the businesswoman leaves the house and promises to keep in touch. When she leaves, Gao freshens up and shares a meal with his friends, who ask where he's been this entire time. Gao wants to protect the villagers from the outside world, so he tactfully avoids their questions and lies to his friends. After their meal, Gao shows them the sapphire gem he got from Zaina. The duo marvels at the stone in disbelief, as they haven't seen a sapphire of that size in years. Finally, Gao hands the gem to Zaina alongside a soil sample from the village for testing. Later that day, the trio visits Gao's uncle, Wen, at a nursing home, and puts on a clown costume to entertain the elderly occupants. In the following scene, the villagers wake up and frantically search the area for Gao. Zaina's heart broke by his disappearance, and soon after, figures that he escaped along with the gem. Overcome with sadness, she decides to go to the city to search for him. The villager's astrologer, Yanhee, initially disapproves of her heading to the city. However, when Zaina begs her, Yanhee takes Zaina to the cave's entrance and warns her to be careful of the city people before the queen departs. When Zaina arrives at the city, she runs into Yiqian, a famous astrology social media influencer, who is searching for a female co-host. Ziyang's strange attire and quirky behavior pique his interest, and he offers to sign her to his company. He asks for her manager, but a confused Zaina merely hands him a card that Gao left behind in the village. He finds a number on it and traces Gao to a nearby nursing home. At Ziyang's request, he drives her to the revealed location to look for Gao. When they arrive at the nursery, Gao spots Ziyang from a distance and runs before she sees him. He hides behind some bushes and observes Ziyang as she searches for him. Ziyang eventually gives up and walks towards the home's exit, but immediately turns around when she hears Gao sneeze from a nearby bush. Gao pops out with his clown costume, but Ziyang doesn't recognize him and merely watches as he jumps away. Moments later, Ziyang joins Yi in the car and the duo drives away from the home. While conversing, he tells an ignorant Ziyang that clowns aren't real creatures, but are mere humans wearing masks. Ziyang is astonished by the revelation and figures that the strange clown she saw at the home was indeed Gao. She begs Yi to return her to the nursery and the media influencer obliges. Sadly, when they reach the nursery, Gao and his friends are long gone, and Ziyang is left disappointed once again. He volunteers to take Ziyang to his house, but the tribe leader refuses and sits on a pavement in front of the nursery, declaring that she'll wait for Gao to return. He desperately tries to get her to leave, but she refuses and even remains seated under the pouring rain. Meanwhile, Gao feels guilty for hiding from Ziyang and gets Qin to find her location. A few minutes later, Qin informs him that Ziyang, together with Yi, is still at the nursing home. Gao thanks Qin for his help and immediately drives back to the nursery. There, Gao spots Ziyang sitting in the rain with Yi beside her. He pulls up in front of the duo and winds down his window. Ziyang is shocked to see him and immediately grabs him by his shirt. Gao frantically begs her not to punch him and comes up with an absurd lie, stating that it is wrong to hit people in the rain. Ziyang is naive, so she believes him and enters his car as he drives her back to his house. Immediately after they arrive, Ziyang points her crossbow at him, but Gao manages to calm her down and puts the weapon down. Ziyang asks Gao to return her sapphire. However, the cunning gem hunter distracts her by offering a cake. Ziyang tries the sugary treat and forgets about the stone, and she viciously munches on it, savoring its foreign taste. When she's done with her meal, Ziyang spends the rest of the day exploring the house as she adapts to the new environment. She shoots an arrow at the television set, thinking it to be a monster, but Gao explains that it's simply a gadget that can't hurt her. Ziyang is fascinated by the modern world and celebrates as she swings a punctured feather pillow, making a mess of his house. The following day, Ziyang visits Gao and is shocked to find the living room in a mess. Shortly after, Ziyang approaches her while eating a bowl of instant noodles. Ziyang snatches the dish from Ziyang and demands to know who she is and what her relationship is with Gao. Ziyang is pissed off by Ziyang's attitude and grabs her by the face as the dealer screams in fear. Gao is woken up by the scream and rushes downstairs to find out what happened. He finds Ziyang wrapped in a blanket with a cloth over her mouth. Gao quickly frees her and is horrified to learn that Ziyang is responsible. Ziyang is furious and asks him who the strange-looking girl was. Immediately, Gao grabs Ziyang and takes her to his room upstairs. Then he comes clean and reveals what happened when he went missing. Gao explains that Ziyang is the queen of a secluded matriarchal village where women rule and men are submissive. Ziyang initially disbelieves him but realizes he's telling the truth when Gao shows her Ziyang's native crossbow. In the living room, Ziyang hears a knock on the window and is shocked to find Yi outside the house. She rushes to the door and tries to open it but can't figure out how. With Yi's direction, Ziyang finds the door handle but uses brute force to turn it, thus breaking it. Eventually, she gives up trying to open the door and breaks it entirely. Gao and Ziyang hear the sound of the crashing door and rush downstairs to find what happened. Gao is livid to find Yi in his home and drags him out before locking his gate. However, Yi refuses to leave and reveals that he knows Ziyang is from a secluded island. Gao is shocked to hear this and threatens Yi to stay away from her as he heads back to the house with Ziyang. The following day, Gao takes Ziyang to a fashion store to get some new clothes. Ziyang tries on some outfits while Gao steps out to give her some privacy. Outside, Gao is astonished to see Lian approaching from a distance and is scared to have her discover Ziyang. Hence, he immediately hides behind a wall and closely watches as the stern woman enters the store. Comment down if you want to watch the next part.